Whoa, welcome everyone at this sponsor interview for WordPress Accessibility Day 2025. My name is Taco Verdonschot and I'm one of the organizers of the WordPress Accessibility Day. It's coming up fast. Oh, like, is going well, happening. Let me quickly fix that. It's
I might have lost your audio, or it might be my local connection. Um, but it is. I'll talk while you're tweaking settings. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Obviously, with Amber being one of the organizers, one of the lead organizers of the event, we're super excited and honored to be a sponsor of WordPress Accessibility Day and value what you do as a volunteer, Taco, and everyone else on the team as well. It's one of the best WordPress events. Of course, I'm a little biased, but
but you're
super
not wrong.
excited to be here.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Absolutely. So sorry, I'm not sure what happened, but technical glitches that comes with an online event as well. Sometimes I know that for October 15 and 16, we're completely going to prevent them.
Yes.
But yes, so it's very close now. I mean, we're almost in October. That means that it's just over 2 weeks. So if you haven't signed up yet to the WordPress Accessibility Day event, go to 2025.wpaccessibility.day/register. And that's where you can do it today for free. So it's a completely free event. And leading up to the event, we are having conversations with our valued sponsors. And Chris, you're representing one of our golden sponsors, Equalize Digital. Welcome to this interview.
Yeah, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm excited for the conversation.
Well, I've prepared a couple of questions and we'll dive deep, but let's get started. Who are you? Can you introduce yourself to our fantastic audience?
Yeah, my name is Chris Hines. I'm the COO at Equalize Digital. I handle a lot of our early stage consulting and conversations with people who are looking to get up and running with accessibility in WordPress or take what they're already doing with accessibility in WordPress to the next level from where they are now. I also do a lot with our company's general operations, as you might imagine, so things like finance, HR, et cetera. But most of my time is spent having those early stage conversations with freelancers, agencies, and a multitude of others who are using WordPress in some capacity.
That sounds like a fun job to me. And you're doing that at Equalize Digital. Can you tell me a little bit more about the company? What problem are you solving for WordPress site owners?
So Equalize Digital's roots, even though the company was founded in 2020, actually traces further back to around 2016. And at that time, I myself, Amber, our CEO, and my business partner, and our other business partner, Steve, our CTO, we're all working on accessibility heavy WordPress projects. So for things like universities, government agencies. And at that time, even then, back in 2016, our general observation was that the processes and the tools that existed for WordPress accessibility were cumbersome, expensive, often both of those things. And so, really, what our mission is at this point, and what we did when we created Equalize Digital and the Accessibility Checker plugin, is to try to give teams better tools and better processes for finding, fixing, and preventing accessibility issues on their WordPress websites.
Nice. And so you're saying that the accessibility checker plugin really helps you find those accessibility issues. How does that work? What does that look like?
So it is, as you might expect, a WordPress plugin, and you can install the free version right now if you go to wordpress.org and go to the plugin repository or search for Accessibility Checker from inside your WordPress admin interface and install the plugin from there. You can also grab it off of our website, equalizedigital.com/accessibility-checker. But that's how you get it. You are asking how it
Mhm.
works. So once you install the plugin, one of the very first things you'll notice if you go to the front end of your website is you will see, if you're logged in, a icon on the front end that allows you to open up and start scanning any page that you're on or any post that you're on. And once the plugin scans that individual page or post, it'll introduce icons. You can browse and see different issues, and you'll be able to see at a glance on your page where you have issues, what those issues are, and receive guidance on how to fix them from directly inside the tool. And as you are fixing or making changes and saving and updating your content, Accessibility Checker is continuously scanning across 45 different automated checks to help you continuously improve. And if you're, whether you're fixing problems or maybe by accident, like many of us do, you're accidentally
Mhm.
creating new problems after you hit save, it will immediately inform you of this fact so that you can go back and you can hopefully correct whatever issues were introduced. So we look at it as proactive rather than reactive accessibility, particularly once an organization gets up to speed and uses it continuously. And it is doing all of that scanning activity using just your browser session and your website server. So there's no external connections, no APIs or tokens or scan credits to worry about. It is true, free, unlimited accessibility scanning and reporting for WordPress specifically.
Nice. Well, that sounds quite impressive. Now, there's this thing called an accessibility overlay, and I've learned that that is something completely different than what you're doing, right?
Yes. So an accessibility overlay is a tool or a piece of software that essentially tries to insert itself between the user and the website source code and calls to an external server and tries to, quote, fix accessibility issues dynamically using code and automation. What many accessibility professionals, seasoned accessibility professionals, agree upon is these sorts of automated systems will at best resolve maybe 10 to 15% of potential accessibility problems. So if your concern is improving true usability, our recommendation is always to use a tool like Accessibility Checker or one of the other accessibility scanning solutions on the market, and also use manual testing methodologies or techniques, or partner with a accessibility expert who can do manual testing to find and fix the problems at their root versus trying to put an overlay tool on your website, which is effectively a digital band-aid at best. And we would definitely recommend, if you're going to use them at all, to use them as a very short-term stopgap measure while you're making real accessibility fixes.
Yeah. So basically, if I summarize that, your product is helping you learn more about accessibility and then pointing out where you can apply that knowledge versus trying to do a half fix, basically.
Yes.
That sounds like the better solution indeed. So you mentioned before that you also work with agencies, that you collaborate with them. What does that look like? How do you help them become better at accessibility?
Well, and I'm glad you brought up agencies because agencies and freelancers, particularly those working with WordPress, are who I spend a lot of my time speaking to.
Mhm.
Um, and what we frequently see is there's different levels to which we can collaborate with them. Some agencies are just looking like they already understand accessibility and they're just looking for better tools that are baked into WordPress CMS that let them do their job more easily when it comes to measuring and managing accessibility, at least in an automated fashion. And then
Mm.
there are agencies who need a little bit deeper help. So maybe they need to bring in a professional auditor to evaluate their work. Maybe they have a customer in government or higher education, or maybe they're concerned and they have some e-commerce customers who are looking to comply with the EU Accessibility Act, which came out this year and finally hit the deadline in June. Um, Regardless of what it is, there's different levels, both via software and via manual services that we can help and supplement what agencies are doing. And really, at the end of the day, the objective for us is to allow them not only to make accessibility more approachable and easier and to allow them to learn and adopt these best practices, but also to help them unlock new potential sources of revenue among their customers as accessibility
Yeah.
becomes a broader and broader concern across all sectors, right? Not just traditional sectors like government or higher education, but extending now into e-commerce and down to state, local, and district level organizations in the US, as well as ballooning out to small businesses and mid-cap industries as well. So there's a lot to consider. There's a lot that accessibility can touch, and it really is what I would call a force multiplier, if you will, for organizations that are looking to deliver better results to their customers, just because it touches so much, from SEO to conversions to traffic, right? The list goes on. There's a lot of ancillary benefit beyond just usability, which in and of itself should be enough of a justification. But I understand in the business world, sometimes we need more than that.
Yeah, so even for those who are looking beyond just doing good, there's financial benefits to making your site accessible, and that's something that you can help them with, achieve that and find that for their business.
Yes.
Um, that's amazing. I mean, financial incentive is definitely something that a lot of companies are looking for. So that's really good to hear. Now, in your explanation, you briefly mentioned the European Accessibility Act. Maybe some of those watching may not know what it is. So, quick summary: it's a common accessibility standards that are set for key digital products and services across all the European member states. And its aim is to make everyday technologies more accessible for everyone and to reduce a little bit of the market fragmentation that exists across Europe. Now, it's not a new law because it was adopted in 2019. Yet, everyone talks about 2025 because that's when enforcement began in June of this year. And so now all, at least new products and services, have to meet those requirements if they're in scope of this act. How does this act change um, your conversations that you have with your clients? Is this a thing they're aware of?
The awareness is growing, but I'll be honest, as someone who's been watching this for many, many years, and a lot of accessibility folks in the accessibility industry have been talking about this regulation for many years now and trying to warn people like, hey, this is coming, this is coming. I did not quite see the monumental shift in demand that I kind of expected, if I'm being perfectly honest, as this regulation or this directive came to its deadline and all of the EU member states had to implement their individual versions of what the requirements were that they were supposed to be
Mhm.
introducing and enforcing. But we are, it is a non-zero shift, I will say that. So we are seeing more among e-commerce, and particularly among freelancers and agencies who are serving their e-commerce customers, who are concerned about this if they have a substantial portion of their business, or at least a statistically significant portion of their business coming from the EU. I think that they're concerned about this because they're concerned about the fines and the potential blowback that they could receive from various member states, potentially all at once, right? There's nothing in the law that says if you get in trouble in Germany, you can't also get in trouble in the Netherlands and get in trouble in Spain, right? It could be
Yeah.
a multiple front sort of thing. And I will just mention also our CEO Amber did some really extensive research around all of this, and if you go to equalizedigital.com/blog, it should still be on the first page of our blog. I don't have the URL memorized, but it's called the Ultimate Guide to the EU Accessibility Act for WordPress. And essentially what we did is we went through and we researched every individual EU member state, who the enforcing bodies are, what the potential fines are, etc., and the actual legal text and what everything says in each country. And we used a combination of deep research and AI, as well as human validation of all the facts, to create a consolidated resource where you can see in one place what the EAA actually looks like on a country by country basis in the EU. It's a fantastic resource, and I'm trying to get more people to bookmark it because I think it'll be a really strong reference for agencies who are serving folks in the EU.
Yeah, so that lives on equalizedigital.com/blog, and then it should be one of the first blog posts there.
Yes.
Ultimate Guide to the European Accessibility Act. Let's hope that we got some extra bookmarks now, because that definitely sounds like a resource, and especially because you mentioned that if you're fined in one member state, that doesn't mean that you're now off the hook for all of the other member states.
Yeah,
So,
and speaking of being off the hook, there's one other thing that just leapt to mind that I want to mention. There have been some organizations saying things like, well, actually, you have until 2027 or 2028 because there's a grace period or et cetera. I think that some of that is overblown or a misinterpretation of what these laws actually say, because those grace periods only apply to hyper specific things within, like, it's like the built environment or physical like ATM machines and things like that that have that additional grace period. I don't think it applies to things that are web and digital in the same way. But I see this false sense of security kind of proliferating in the digital sphere, saying, oh, we have more time, right? And maybe you do, right? Because it takes time for countries to get up to speed and to start enforcing things.
mhm,
But our position as advocates is that the best time to have started working on complying with these rules was probably a year plus ago, and the next best time is right now.
yeah, yeah, don't push it.
Yes.
It's, so jumping from the European Accessibility Act to another um, thing that exists on the web, it's called Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. For those who are not aware, it's a set of international standards developed by W3C to ensure that websites and digital content are accessible to everyone. Um, that standard is widely used by governments, businesses, organizations all around the world as the foundation for digital accessibility compliance. Um, it's also the term that probably comes up in your reviews quite a few times, WCAG, usually. What are some of the most common issues that you see on the sites that you review?
It's actually something we've put some work into to try to collate all this, because as you can imagine, we've done a lot of auditing of a lot of different WordPress sites and even non-WordPress sites. We've worked with some hosting providers on their dashboards, for example. Um, at What we've actually done is we've collated all of that, and we released an infographic earlier this year of some of the most common issues we saw in manual audits. And we have this lofty goal eventually of allowing people to opt into sharing their data from Accessibility Checker if they would like to let
Mhm.
us do that from a scanning perspective as well. But I will share some of the top 25. I won't list all of them out, but color contrast was easily number one. And so using a solid color contrast checker for any new designs you're producing, as well as on your existing website, would be a game changer. And that is by and far the leader among the issues that we find. The other big one has to do with keyboard navigation. So if you go to any website, whether it's yours, someone else's, one you're
Mm.
working on and building right now, just start hitting the tab key on your keyboard and see what happens. If you don't see anything happen, that's a problem. You should see a focus indicator moving around from left to right, top to bottom in a logical order with a clear indication of where your focus is. And you'll
Mhm.
immediately understand what I'm talking about if you haven't seen this before. If you go to a site like wpaccessibility.day, which, as you can imagine, puts a lot of work into its accessibility, and start hitting that tab key, you'll see a wonderful example of this in action. But keyboard navigation is another huge gap. I think a lot of organizations don't test for it. They don't necessarily code with it in mind. And so
Mhm.
being able to do that and to pay particular attention to that would be great. And then some other ones that come up quite a bit are things related to incorrect heading order. So H1, H2, H3, having
Mhm.
those headings be properly in a logical order. So not going from an H2 to an H4, and having everything follow a logical kind of outline sequence is
And
really
and why
helpful.
is that problematic if you skip a heading level?
So the reason that that's problematic is a lot of screen reader users will actually use specialized tools in their screen reader to skim the content on the page, and it'll seek out the headings and read them out in an outline format so that they can quickly gain an understanding of what's on the page and jump to the relevant section versus having the entire page read to them to try to get to the content. It's like the auditory version of what I would be doing visually scanning a page for what I'm interested in. So that's one key reason it's important. But the other reason it's important that's very secondary to the first one is search engine and AI crawlers tend to like it if your heading structure is logical because it allows them to
Mhm.
more easily understand and index your content. So there is a business oriented benefit to that as well. Some other big ones are like missing heading tags is a particularly big one. So that'll be like people using large bold font as a heading, but it still has a paragraph tag. That definitely makes your page less understandable and less easily skimmable, depending on the type of user that's trying to access it, as well as ambiguous or empty links or buttons. So these are links or buttons that are directing users to different parts of a website or that are supposed to perform a particular action on a page. And if they aren't properly tagged and labeled, you can imagine that links and buttons are particularly important for a website to be functional, and having them properly tagged and labeled make sure that all users can equally do what they need to do when they're on a website. That's just a handful of maybe the top 10 that we see. There's obviously more to consider, and if you're wondering what's going on your website, I'll just say again, one of the fastest ways to do that is to install Accessibility
Oh, the
Checker
plugin. Yeah.
and just go to your homepage and see what it says. And congratulations, you have taken your first step on a journey once you've done that.
Yeah, and this is something that I can personally speak to. Being in WordPress for a while, when my wife started her own business, I was not going to let her go to one of the proprietary systems, um, which meant that I had to build her website. And I thought I did a pretty decent job. And then I installed Accessibility Checker, and I had some more work to do.
Yeah.
Um, but it's working really well, and I actually like the feedback. I'm starting to understand it better and better. So definitely, if you have never installed the plugin but you are running on a WordPress site, go install it because it will absolutely teach you new things.
I really wish that our software, because it is so effective at scanning and finding things, that I wish it could like reach through the screen and give someone like a reassuring shoulder squeeze or a pat on the back and be like, don't worry, right? Because it is true that depending on how the site was implemented, the first time it scans could be a little stressful, right? But my message to everyone listening here is you've got this, and all that's really happening, as Taco just referenced, is you're learning how to build something even better than you already knew how before. It's just another
Yeah.
way to improve.
Well, and yes, the first time it looked pretty scary. Fortunately, it was a mistake that I made in one of the templates. So I changed it in a single place and I resolved like 80 errors.
Yeah, isn't that a
So
great feeling?
that
That's
was
talk about a
fantastic.
dopamine hit, right?
Yes. Yeah, I should have gotten paid by the error. That was definitely would have been fantastic. Um, but yeah, so from personal experience, I can definitely recommend using the plugin. It's
Thank you.
super helpful. So, if there's anyone out there like me who has no idea about accessibility, but now that they've heard this interview, now that they've seen the announcement for the upcoming event on October 15th and 16th, they want to get started. They want to educate themselves. Where do they go? Where do they start with the absolute basics?
Honestly, I feel like wpaccessibility.day is a really good place to start. And make sure, if you're hearing this and you're still in that early stage with accessibility, that that you take that important step to start educating yourself. So if you go to wpaccessibility.day or 2025.wpaccessibility.day and you
Yeah.
look at that agenda, try to find, because I know your speaker selection process is fantastic. You're always bringing in new speakers and there's always different levels of talks. Try to find some of
Mhm.
those talks that look a little bit more beginner level, and they'll actually be marked in the agenda too as beginner, intermediate, advanced. uh, Attend a couple of beginner talks, have your existing preconceived notions challenged, open yourself up to this broader world. Another place to check out is the meetup that we run on behalf of wordpress.org, which is the WordPress accessibility meetup. It's one of the only 100% virtual WordPress meetups, and it currently runs monthly, although we might be going back to twice a month starting in 2026 again. And there's always free education happening there. And honestly, Accessibility Checker itself, I know I keep hammering that, but Accessibility Checker itself is a great teaching tool because it's right there with you as you're doing the work and giving you pointers right where the action is happening, which is one of the I learned by doing, right? And so the one of the best places to learn is right in the middle, in the thick of it as you're doing the work. It's like having a accessibility specialist standing over your shoulder being like, oh, you missed that and you might want to tweak that, right? It's that kind of feeling, and we hope it's a positive feeling, as you alluded to,
Yeah.
fixing 80 issues with one fell swoop. And then the only other thing I'll mention is, if you're ready to take a deeper dive or commit
Mhm.
to that more deeper exploration of accessibility, we have paid trainings that are available on screen reader testing at equalizedigital.com under our learn section in the primary navigation menu. Or some teams really like to learn by having a professional come in and do an accessibility audit or a user testing session where they can see firsthand an exhaustive investigation into all of the accessibility issues that might exist across a sample or across a user journey. And we find that the agencies, the freelancers, the companies that come back to us again and again, auditing different things or evaluating different things, each time they come back, we find a little less, we find a little less, we find a little less, right? So we know that they're learning this stuff and they're going beyond what most people do, and it's really fun to see that progress, and it's really fun to go on that journey with people. So hopefully that wasn't too
Mhm.
much, but hopefully I gave people some places to start no matter where they are kind of on their journey.
Yeah. And so if people want to learn from you and they want to have one of the sessions, is that in person? Do they have to travel to the US? Do you do stuff online? What does that look like?
So the WordPress accessibility meetup, like WP Accessibility Day, is 100% virtual and free. So there
Mhm.
is there is no cost associated with that other than what you pay for your internet connection.
Yeah.
When it comes to our online courses, there is a fee for those, but they're
Mhm.
30 plus hours of content and significant amounts of time and energy were invested in those. So hopefully they're worth the 179 US dollars that we're asking for those courses. And
Yeah.
then audits, if you wanted to reach out to me, anyone watching this, if you're curious about what it takes to do an audit or do a user testing session, I am more than happy to have a high level conversation with you and take you through what those deliverables look like and to ask you questions to make sure that what we're offering is actually going to be a fit for you, for where you are in your journey. Because I will say, just as often as I present someone with a proposal, I
Mhm.
am an equal amount of the time saying, actually, I think you should look over here first and try this first because I'm not sure you're actually ready for this yet, right? And really, for us, it's about making sure people can adopt accessibility and adopt these best practices in a way that feels sustainable and not
Mhm.
overwhelming.
Nice. And so what I'm hearing is that all of it is possible online. You don't have to be physically near you, near your offices to use your services.
Yes. So, and we work with organizations that are based in the EU and Africa. We have clients in Japan. So we are truly working globally on accessibility, which is very exciting. And yes, you're free to reach out.
That sounds like a plan for those who are interested. never checked it out, definitely do. Reach out to Chris. Okay, so we need to talk a little bit about what you're doing for WordPress Accessibility Day, because I saw you're giving away a 1 year small business license for the plugin. Um, what's that license? I mean, you talked before that the plugin is freely available. What do you get extra when you get the small business license?
So when you get a paid version of Accessibility Checker, you get the
Mm.
ability to scan your website in bulk, including custom post types or password protected areas. And if you aren't sure what those are, just reach out to me separately and I can explain for anyone who's not super well versed. And you have the ability to access site wide, highly detailed, and highly modifiable reports. So you can go in and you can see all of the issues across your entire WordPress site at a glance versus having to go page by page or post by post in the free version. And on top of that, starting at the small business tier and above, you get access to some additional add-ons like our audit history add-on, which introduces tracking over time. So if you need accessibility governance and you need to be able to show your trend line, hopefully a decrease in the number of issues over time, right? You will be able to do that. And also, if you need to export our data, we expose all of our data starting at the small business level, and you can export that via a CSV if you need to get that into a different format, or if you're doing custom reports for your clients in an agency setting, that CSV export is super valuable. And finally, and I think one of the number one values at the small business and agency levels is our office hours. So these are 2 1 hour calls a month. Anyone that holds these plan levels can attend.
Mhm.
And basically, it is a small focus group type setting where you can get expert accessibility help, get your questions answered, get some incidental screen reader testing done, not just from our team. We always have at least a couple reps from our team there, but also you get to meet other like-minded agencies and freelancers who have these plans because they're small group calls. And oftentimes we will see agencies starting to answer one another's questions like, oh, I've been through that before, here I can show you this exact thing, right? Or we'll come in with a official answer and weigh in where it's needed. But basically, it's, I think it's one of the top values, and usually there's only between 5 and 10 people on those calls, because usually it's like a, they dip in and they dip out, right? And they don't always need the help, but it's available when they need it, and that can be super valuable.
Nice. And it's from the sound of it, it's almost like a little community that you're building that's helping each other out and moving each other forward.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
you can be part of that if you win the small business license on the sponsor page of the WordPress Accessibility Day this year. But in order to go there, you need to be registered. So make sure you go to 2025.wpaccessibility.day/register, sign up today, and that's where you can have a chance of winning that small business license. Now, I know we're coming up to the end of our interview. If people have any questions beyond today's interview, if they want to reach out to you personally or to the company, where do they go? Where do they find you?
You can reach me directly anytime, Chris at equalizedigital.com, or equalizedigital.com, as you can imagine, has a contact form that also goes to our team. And if not me, definitely someone will get in touch with you to answer any of your questions and to help you take that next step or that first step towards a more accessible workflow or website.
Well, I would say that for anyone listening today, if you've never ever looked at accessibility, or if you're seasoned and you just want to level up a little bit, don't hesitate. Reach out to Chris, reach out to Equalize Digital, our fantastic gold sponsors for WordPress Accessibility Day. Uh, Now, Chris, before we close up, my final call. Um, People, you can still register. It's completely free. You get 24 sessions, so 24 hours, 24 sessions, with amazing content on October 15th and 16th this year. So in just over 2 weeks. And there's another benefit because when you register, you can do a donation and you might actually get a copy of this amazing t-shirt that says WPAD in American Sign Language and has actually the alt text on the back. I'm not going to show you, but if you do a donation, you'll definitely see it on your very own WordPress Accessibility Day t-shirt.
No shade to the previous shirt designs. Sorry to interrupt, but I just have to say this is my favorite so far, personally. It's so good.
Same here. I love it, and it's so speaking to accessibility. Um, and I wish I could do American Sign Language. Unfortunately, I can't. Um, I learned Dutch Sign Language years and years ago, but don't use it a whole lot anymore. So I've forgotten most of it. But if anyone here wants to have a practice session, I'm game. For now, we're going to end today's interview. Chris, we'll see you at WordPress Accessibility Day because
Yes.
besides sponsoring, you're also emceeing a couple of sessions. So we'll definitely see you back on the screen. Thank you so much for joining me today and see you on October 15th.
See you on October 15th.